7:58 in the morning, 2 minutes early. I stood at the front of the room and watched the door. The funeral home was small, local place near the hospital where Eleanor had worked, walls painted a soft beige, rows of folding chairs facing a podium with a single photograph of my wife. She was laughing in that picture, hand pressed to her chest, head tilted back, the kind of full-body laugh she gave when something truly delighted her. I had chosen it because I wanted people to remember her like that. 15 people had arrived, Eleanor's co-workers from hospice, 3 former patients' families who had become friends, my neighbor from across the street, and Gloria Harper, the hospice director, standing by the back wall with her hands clasped. No, Sarah, no Mark. I checked my phone. 10 messages from the morning, none from my children. The service was scheduled to start at 8. I had texted them both at 6. Your mother's memorial is today. I hope to see you there. 7:59, Sarah sent a reply. I opened it. 3 sentences, Dad. I'm so sorry. The engagement dinner was scheduled months ago. We couldn't change it. Then another message, 2 seconds later. This one from Mark. Jessica's parents planned this dinner. It's important for her family. You understand? I read both messages twice. Then I turned off my phone. I did not watch them raise glasses or stare at plates. I was not there. I only knew they had chosen a dinner over their mother's memorial. The service went on. 54 minutes. I spoke for 8 of them. I told them about the day I met Eleanor at a bookstore, how she corrected my pronunciation of a French author's name, how I fell in love with her laugh before I even knew her name. I did not mention the children. Gloria spoke next. She talked about Eleanor's last weeks, how she asked for stories, not prayers, how she made the hospice staff laugh even when she was in pain, how she held Gloria's wrist and said, "Take care of him. He thinks he's strong, but he's not." I sat in the front row and listened. I did not cry. I had done all my crying in the hospital room on March 15th, holding her hand while the machines stopped one by one. After the service, I stood by the door and shook hands. People hugged me. Someone pressed a card into my palm. I thanked them all. Gloria came last. She took both my hands. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. "Frank," she said, "Eleanor left something with me. A letter. Sealed. To be opened only if the children abandon the memorial." I stared at her. "What does it say?" "I don't know. I never opened it." She was very specific. "Bring it to you only if they didn't show." I thought about Sarah's message. The engagement dinner was scheduled months ago. We couldn't change it. Jessica's parents. Wealthy people. A big dinner at the Ritz-Carlton downtown. Their daughter about to marry my son. I looked at Gloria. "You knew they wouldn't come." "I suspected," she said. "Eleanor knew too. She taught me not to be surprised by people, just to be ready." There it was, cold certainty settling in my chest. Eleanor had seen this coming. She had planned for it. She had given them every chance to prove they were better than that. If this story moves you, please consider subscribing to Revenge Stories. It helps more than you know. I walked to my car. An old Honda Civic with a cracked dashboard and a tape deck that only played one side of a cassette. Eleanor had wanted a new car. I never got around to buying one. Now I was glad. I drove home and sat in the living room. The house was quiet. Eleanor's knitting basket still sat by the couch. A half-finished scarf hung from the needles. I had not moved anything. I thought about the lake house. The one we had bought 23 years ago, a small cabin on Lake Cle Elum in the Cascade foothills, $450,000, paid off in full. The kids had spent every summer there. They expected to inherit it. I thought about Gloria's words, the sealed letter. I picked up my phone and looked at the messages again. You understand? I did not understand. But I was starting to. And somewhere in Gloria Harper's office, Eleanor's letter was waiting to show me exactly what she had known all along. The doorbell rang at 7:58 in the morning, 2 minutes before I expected them. I had been sitting in the kitchen since 6, coffee gone cold, watching the light change over the backyard. Eleanor's rose bushes needed pruning. She would have hated seeing them overgrown. I opened the door. Sarah stood on the porch, mascara smudged at the corners. Mark was behind her, hands shoved in his jacket pockets. And behind him, Jessica, wearing a cream-colored coat that probably cost more than my first car. She smiled. That smile. Symmetrical and practiced like she had rehearsed it in a mirror. "Dad," Sarah said, "can we come in?" I stepped aside. They filed past me into the living room. Jessica sat on the couch without being invited, crossed her legs, placed her phone face up on the armrest. Mark stood by the window. Sarah hovered near the door like she might bolt. "Can I get you anything?" I asked. "No," Mark said. "We need to talk." I sat in Eleanor's chair, the one with the worn armrest where her hand had rested for 17 years of evening television. I waited. Jessica cleared her throat. "Frank, we know this is hard, but we need to discuss the lake house." "We're ready to buy," Mark said. "Jessica's parents helped us find a place near them. Great school district, good investment." "A down payment," Jessica added. "We need $150,000. Your share from the lake house sale, split between Mark and Sarah naturally." I looked at Sarah. She was studying the floorboards. "Sarah?" She flinched. I mean, it makes sense, Dad. You don't go up there anymore. It's just sitting, and the market is good right now. The memorial was 3 days ago," I said. A pause. The words sat in the room like a stone. "Dad," we explained, Mark started. "You explained," I repeated. "You had a dinner." "It wasn't just dinner," Jessica said, her voice climbing into that saccharine register. "It was an engagement dinner. My parents spent weeks planning it. The Ritz-Carlton ballroom. We couldn't just..." "Couldn't just what?" I asked. "Couldn't change the date?" "Couldn't say no?" Jessica's smile tightened. "Frank, I know this is emotional, but we're talking about real estate, practical decisions. The lake house is worth $450,000. You and Eleanor paid it off years ago. Why let it rot?" "We didn't let it rot," I said. "Eleanor loved that cabin, and Eleanor is gone." She said it flat. No softening, no apology. Just the fact dropped onto the coffee table between us. Mark shifted. "Dad," Jessica's father offered to pay off my student loans. $60,000. "But we need to move forward. He wants to see we're making smart decisions." "Forward," I said. "Yes, forward. We can't live in the past." "Is that what Jessica's father said?" Mark's face reddened. "That's not fair." $60,000, I said. "That's a lot of money to forgive." "Dad, it's a gift. He's helping us." "That's what families do." I looked at Sarah. "And you? What's Jessica's family offering you?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "Nothing." Mark said it was the right thing for the family to be together, near them. "Them," I said, "not us." She didn't answer. Jessica stood up. She walked to the mantelpiece and picked up a framed photograph. Eleanor and me at the lake house 20 years ago, both of us holding fishing poles we had no idea how to use. Jessica studied it like she was reading a price tag. "Frank, I'm going to be direct," she said. "Mark and I are getting married. We're going to have children, your grandchildren. And I want them to know their grandfather. I really do. But proximity matters. If you don't help us get the house near my parents, if you keep holding on to a property you don't use, I have to think about what kind of relationship that enables." She set the photograph down, turned to face me. "I'm not saying you won't see them. I'm saying it'll be harder, less convenient. You understand?" It wasn't a question. It was a threat, wrapped in cashmere and pity. I stood up. Slowly, I walked to the door and opened it. "I'm not selling the lake house," I said. Mark's face crumpled. "Dad, don't do this." "Done. Goodbye." Jessica gathered her coat. She paused at the threshold, close enough I could smell her perfume. "Something floral and expensive? Think about what you're losing, Frank." "I am," I said. She walked down the steps. She walked down the steps. Mark followed. Sarah was last, pausing at the door, mouth open like she wanted to say something. Then she turned and jogged to catch up. I closed the door and stood in the hallway. The house was quiet again. Eleanor's voice came back to me, soft and certain. They'll show you who they are. Believe them. I believed them. I walked to the kitchen and picked up my phone. Gloria Harper's number was still in the call log. I pressed it. She answered on the second ring. Frank? Gloria, I said, tell me about the letter. A pause. Then, I was wondering when you call. Gather what you can, then call me. Gather what I can, I repeated. I will. Frank, are you okay? I looked at the mantelpiece where Jessica had touched the photograph. I could still smell her perfume in the air. I'm fine, I said. I'm finally seeing things clearly. I hung up and looked at Eleanor's scarf, still hanging from the knitting needles. Half finished, permanent. I wondered what else she had finished without me knowing. I drove to the bank first, not my usual branch, the one across town where Eleanor and I had our safety deposit box. I needed records she had kept, things I'd never bothered to look at. The woman at the desk recognized me. She had been at the memorial. She didn't ask questions. She just handed me the box and led me to a small room with a sliding door. I opened it. On top was a manila folder with my name written in Eleanor's handwriting. Inside were bank statements, our joint account, Mark's account, a third account I didn't recognize. Eleanor had been tracking everything. I spread them across the table. The first statement was from January. A deposit of $60,000 into Mark's account. The sender, Jonathan Thornton, Jessica's father. The memo line read, loan forgiveness. I picked up my phone. I called Mark's bank using the number on the statement. I told them I was his father and I needed a transaction history for my records. They asked for his account number. I read it from the statement Eleanor had saved. They asked for his date of birth. I gave it. They asked for his mother's maiden name. I gave that too. The woman on the phone paused. I can email a PDF to the address on file. Read me the transactions, I said, starting January 15th. She read them. A transfer of $60,000 from a Chase account belonging to Jonathan Thornton. A transfer of $1,000 the same day from Mark's account to a credit card. A transfer of $5,000 10 days later to a wedding venue deposit. A transfer of $2,000 to a luxury hotel in Napa. Mark had been spending before the debt was even gone. I took notes. I did not feel angry. I felt cold and clear, like water just above freezing. I drove to Sarah's apartment after that. I did not call ahead. I knocked on her door at 4 in the afternoon. She opened it in yoga pants and a t-shirt, her hair in a messy bun. She looked tired. Dad, she said, what are you doing here? Can I come in? She stepped aside. Her apartment was clean but impersonal. Gray couch. Gray walls, no photographs, no plants. The kind of place you live in when you don't plan to stay. Sarah, I said, I need you to be honest with me. She sat down on the couch. She stared at her hands. About what? About the memorial. About the dinner. About everything. Dad, I told you, Jessica's parents had it scheduled months in advance. We couldn't. Did you know what date it was? She looked up. Then down. Sarah, did you know the dinner was on the same day as your mother's memorial? She was quiet for a long time. Yo! Then, Jessica mentioned it. She said it was a coincidence. She said her mother had booked the Ritz-Carlton for March 22nd back in December. She said we could visit Mom's grave the next day. But you knew. I didn't. She stopped. Yes, I knew. I sat down across from her. When did you know? 2 weeks before. 2 weeks before the memorial. You knew the dinner was on the same day. Yes. And you didn't tell me. I tried. Mark said you wouldn't understand. He said Jessica's family needed this. He said if we skipped the dinner, Jessica's father would be angry. He was paying off Mark's loans. $60,000. Mark said it was our future. So he told you. She nodded. Mark told me everything. The loan forgiveness, the condition that he sign over his inheritance rights, the promise that Jessica's father would help us buy a house near them. Did you sign anything? No. I said no. Mark got angry. He said I was being selfish. He said Mom was gone and we had to look forward, not backward. I took out my phone. I opened the Notes app. Sarah, I need you to text me what you just told me. Why? Because I need a record. I need proof. Not to hurt you. To protect myself. She stared at me, her eyes filled with tears. But she did not reach for my hand. She did not beg for forgiveness. She picked up her phone. She typed. A moment later, my phone buzzed. I looked at the screen. A long message. Every detail I had just heard. The 2-week notice. The dinner date. The loan forgiveness. The inheritance condition. The pressure from Mark. At the end, she had written, I knew it was wrong. I went along because I was afraid of losing my brother. I am so sorry, Dad. I put my phone in my pocket. Thank you, I said. Are you going to confront them? Not yet. What are you going to do? I stood up. I looked at my daughter. She was crying now silently. She was complicit. She was also ashamed. Both things could be true. I'm going to read your mother's letter, I said. And then I'm going to do what she asked me to do. I drove home with the evidence in my pocket. Bank statements, text messages, a confession. Eleanor had seen it all coming. She had given me the tools. Now I just needed to know what she wanted me to build. I called Gloria. I have the evidence, I said. Good, she said. Saturday morning, my office. 9 o'clock. Bring everything. I'll be there. Frank, she said, are you ready for what the letter says? I thought about the lake house. I thought about the hospice workers who had held Eleanor's hand. I thought about my children who had traded her memory for a dinner. Yes, I said, I'm ready. On Saturday morning, March 30th, I arrived at Gloria's office at exactly 9 o'clock. She had the letter in her hands, a plain white envelope sealed with a single piece of tape. Eleanor's handwriting on the front, for Frank, to be opened only if my children fail to honor my memorial. I sat down across from Gloria. She slid the envelope toward me. Do you want me to read it? She asked. Or do you want to? I want you to read it, I said. Later, at the meeting. Gloria raised an eyebrow. You know about the meeting? Jessica's father called me last night, I said. 7:30. He said they wanted to resolve the situation. His words. He invited me to their house. Said it was time for a family discussion. And you agreed. I told him I'd bring a guest. Gloria smiled. It was a small smile, but it was there. Eleanor said you'd be smart about this. She knew me better than I knew myself. I told Gloria about the evidence, the bank statements, the text messages, Sarah's confession, the $60,000 transfer from Jonathan Thornton's account. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she set the letter on the desk and folded her hands. They won't see it coming, she said. That's the point. The Thornton house was in a gated community 20 minutes outside the city. Big white columns, a circular driveway, 3 cars I couldn't afford parked in front. I pulled up in my Honda Civic with a cracked dashboard and parked next to a black Mercedes. Gloria got out first. She was wearing a simple gray dress and carrying a leather briefcase. The letter was inside. I rang the doorbell. A woman I didn't recognize opened the door. Maybe a housekeeper. She led us through a foyer with a crystal chandelier and into a living room the size of my entire house. They were all there. Jessica sitting next to her mother on a white couch. Mark standing by the fireplace, arms crossed. Sarah on a separate chair looking at her hands. And Jonathan Thornton in a leather armchair, drink in hand. And one empty chair, facing them. A spotlight over it. Frank, Jonathan said, glad you could make it. I said I'd come. He didn't stand. He gestured to the empty chair. Have a seat. We have some things to discuss. I didn't sit. I stayed standing. Gloria stayed next to me. Jessica tells us you're being unreasonable about the lake house, Jonathan said. The children need that money for their future. A down payment. A fresh start. The lake house was Eleanor's, and now it's yours, Jessica said. Her voice was sweet, syrupy. And we all know you don't need it. You have your retirement. Your pension. You'd want your grandchildren to have a good life, wouldn't you? I looked at Mark. Is this what you want? He wouldn't meet my eyes. Dad, it's just practical. We need the money. I see. So we'll sell, Jonathan said. Give the children $150,000 total, split equally between them. You keep the rest. Everyone wins. No. The room went quiet. No, Jessica's mother spoke for the first time. Her voice was sharp. You're going to deny your own children? I looked at Mark. Your mother's memorial was 8 days ago. You didn't come. I told you, the dinner was on the same date and you knew it 2 weeks beforehand. Sarah told me. Sarah's head snapped up. Her face went pale. Jessica's smile faltered. That's not. Mark, I said, your fiancé's father offered to pay off your $60,000 in student loans if you signed over your inheritance rights. The transfer went through on January 15th. Mark's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. How you know that? I have the bank statements. Jonathan set down his drink. This is a private family matter. No, I said. It's a public record. The bank gave me the transaction history. $60,000 from your account to Mark's. Labeled loan forgiveness? Jessica stood up. This is ridiculous. We're not going to sit here and be accused. Sit down. She didn't sit. Her mother put a hand on her arm. I turned to Gloria. She opened the briefcase. Pulled out the envelope. Eleanor left instructions, I said. To be followed only if her children abandon her memorial. This is absurd, Jonathan said. You can't. Shut up. The words came out calm. Cold. Jonathan's face reddened. Gloria broke the seal, pulled out a single sheet of paper. Handwriting I recognized. Eleanor's. She began to read. To my children, if you are reading this, you chose a dinner over my memorial. I am not angry. I am disappointed. But I am not surprised. Mark looked at the floor. You are always chasing something. Money. Approval, security. I hoped you would learn to value what mattered. Family, love, honor. Jessica crossed her arms. Her mother stared straight ahead. The lake house, Gloria read, was never part of the estate. I transferred the deed to a trust for the hospice workers in 2022 and 2020. They held my hand when I was afraid. They brought me water when I couldn't drink. They told me I was not alone. They deserve more than my children ever gave me. Sarah started crying, quiet tears. Any child who skipped my memorial forfeits their inheritance entirely. What? This is not punishment, it is consequence. You made a choice. Now you must live with it. Mark said, You can't do this. The letter continued. Frank, my love, I know you, my love. Do what is right. Give them the house that matters, the one they cannot take from you. There was more. A personal message for me. I am proud of you. You were a better father than they deserved. You are a better husband than I could have hoped for. I will wait for you. But not yet. Stay. Live. Honor me by being kind to the people who were kind to me. Gloria folded the letter. The room was silent. Mark had his hands over his face. Sarah was sobbing into her hands. Jessica's mother had gone pale. Mommy! Jonathan was staring at the wall. Jessica broke the silence. This can't be legal. She transferred property while she was sick. She didn't know what she was doing. She had a lawyer, I said, her own lawyer, independent. The transfer was notarized, witnessed, recorded with the county. We'll fight it, Jonathan said. You can try. But the trust is irrevocable. The hospice workers own the lake house. Not me, not you, not your daughter. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a folded document, held it up. I will sign the final transfer today. The deed will then be in the name of the Cascade Hospice Workers Fund. It's done. Jessica stepped toward me. Her face was red. You think you've won? You've destroyed your family. You've ruined Mark. I didn't destroy anything, I said. I honored my wife's last wish. You're a monster. No, I said. I'm a father who finally understands what his children are capable of. Mark looked up. His eyes were wet. Dad! Dad! I looked at him. My son. The boy who used to fish with me at the lake. The man who chose money over memory. Mark, I said. I love you. I will always love you. But I don't respect you. Not right now. Not until you earn it. Key didn't answer. Sarah stood up, walked toward me, stopped a few feet away. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Apologizing is a start, I said. But it's only a start. Gloria handed me the letter. I folded it carefully, put it in my jacket pocket, over my heart. I turned to Jonathan. You wanted a family discussion. Here it is. Your daughter is engaged to a man with no inheritance. No lake house? No future security? What happens now? Jonathan said nothing. Jessica said nothing. Her mother said nothing. I walked out. Gloria followed. We got into my Honda Civic, the cracked dashboard, the tape deck that only played one side of a cassette. I drove us to the lawyer's office in my Honda Civic. Gloria sat beside me. The morning light was sharp through the windshield. I had not slept in 3 days. I did not feel tired. The lawyer's name was Margaret Chen. She had handled the trust for Eleanor. She knew everything. Her office was small and neat. A single window looked out at a parking lot. She had the documents ready on her desk. Oh! Mr. Harper, she said, the deed is prepared for final transfer. There will be paperwork for your will as well. I nodded, sat down. Gloria sat beside me. Margaret slid a sheet of paper across the desk. This transfers the property at 472 Lakeshore Drive, Lake Cle Elam, from the Harper Family Trust to the Cascade Hospice Workers Fund. The property is valued at $450,000. It is now a retreat for hospice staff and the families of patients. I picked up the pen. It was a cheap ballpoint, the kind you get at a hotel. I signed my name. Frank Harper. Date: March 30th, 2024. I had not cried at the memorial. I had not cried when I found the bank statements. I had not cried when my daughter confessed. My hand did not shake when I signed. But when I set the pen down, something cold settled in my chest. The door closing. Eleanor's lake house, the place where we had watched our children learn to swim, where we had sat on the porch and counted stars. It was not mine anymore. It had not been mine since 2022, when Eleanor put it in trust. I was just finishing what she started. Gloria squeezed my arm. She would be proud, she said. I did not answer. Margaret opened another folder. Now, your will. You are leaving a $200,000 bequest from your estate to a charity in Eleanor's name. Is that correct? Yes. Your children receive nothing directly? My children receive a conditional trust. $50,000 total, $25,000 each. They cannot access it until they fulfill requirements. Margaret read back what I had written in my notes. Ooh. Sarah Harper and Mark Harper must each maintain regular grief counseling for 5 years. They must also maintain contact with you, at least one in-person visit every quarter and one phone call per month for the same 5-year period. Only then can they access their share. Correct. Do you want any additional conditions? I thought about it, thought about Mark, about Sarah, about the way Sarah had whispered, "I'm sorry," in the Thorntons' foyer, about Mark who had not said a word. No, I said. That's enough. Margaret slid a letter across the desk. This is the notification letter for your children. It explains the trust. I will mail it certified tomorrow. I opened it, read it. The words were legal and cold. They did not soften anything. I closed the letter and handed it back. Mail it. Margaret made notes. Gloria sat still. The clock on the wall ticked. I signed the will, signed the trust documents. Sign the notification letter authorization. I signed my name 7 times. Each time felt like another door closing. When it was done, Margaret shook my hand. You honored your wife's wishes, Mr. Harper. That takes courage. I did not feel courageous. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out the part of me that hoped for reconciliation. I expected to feel peace. I felt only silence. I dropped Gloria at her office, then drove home. We did not talk much. The radio played low. Country music I did not recognize. Pulling into my driveway, I turned off the car and sat for a moment. The house was dark. The half-finished scarf was still on Eleanor's knitting needles. I picked it up, touched the soft yarn, set it back down. That night, I sat in Eleanor's chair until midnight. The phone was silent. No text from Mark. No calls from Sarah. I did not know what I wanted them to say. I only knew they did not say it. I wondered how long 5 years would feel. Long enough for them to choose. Long enough for them to prove it. Or maybe just long enough for me to stop caring. I closed my eyes. I saw Eleanor's face, her hand on mine in the hospice bed. Her voice calm. They'll show you who they are. Believe them. I believed them. I fell asleep in the chair. I did not sleep well that night. But I woke up knowing what I had to do. The next morning, I drove out to the lake house for the first time since Eleanor died. I wanted to see it one last time before it became something else. The drive took 2 hours. The roads got smaller. The trees got taller. By the time I reached the gravel driveway, my hands were steady on the wheel. The cabin looked the same, weathered wood. A porch with 2 rocking chairs, the dock where Eleanor and I used to drink coffee at dawn. I sat on the porch for a long time. The lake was flat and gray. A loon called across the water. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Harper, this is Amanda from Cascade Hospice. We wanted to let you know, the staff retreat at the lake house begins next week. Thank you again. Your wife's gift means more than we can say. I typed back, I hope it serves you well. She replied with a heart emoji. Just one. It meant more than all the ones my children never sent. I did not tell them where I was. I did not tell anyone. On April 15th, I got a call from Mark. The first call since the Thornton house. His voice was flat, mechanical. Jessica's parents called off the wedding, he said. I waited. They said there was no point. That I had nothing to offer. Her father used the word liability. I did not say I told you so. I did not say anything. The engagement is over, Mark said. She moved out yesterday. I asked him if he was okay. He paused. I don't know what I am. Then he hung up. I sat in Eleanor's chair. I thought about the $60,000, the mansion with the crystal chandelier, the engagement dinner at the Ritz-Carlton, all of it built on a lie. He gave up his mother's memorial for a family that dropped him the moment the money disappeared. I did not call him back. He needed to feel the weight of it. I learned that from Eleanor. Some lessons only land when you hit the ground. Sarah reached out in April. A text, 3 words. Can we talk? I said yes. We met at a coffee shop near her apartment. She looked thinner. Her eyes were red. She sat down across from me and folded her hands like she was bracing for a blow. I started therapy, she said. I nodded. I told my therapist everything. The dinner, the texts, the pressure from Jessica, from Mark, from myself. She wiped her eyes. I knew it was wrong. I knew it the whole time. But I was so scared of losing them, of being the one who made trouble. I reached across the table. She took my hand. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I squeezed her fingers. I know. We sat there for an hour. She talked about the guilt, the shame, the way she avoided my calls because she could not face what she had done. I listened. That was all she needed, someone who would not leave. Before we left, she said something that stuck. Mom knew, didn't she? She knew we would fail her. I thought about the letter, the trust, the deed signed over years before she died. Eleanor knew exactly what her children would become. She knew you had a choice, I said. She just wanted to see what you would choose, Sarah cried. Yeah. I held her. That summer, I started visiting the lake house on weekends. The hospice workers had transformed it. The rocking chairs were still there, but now there were flower boxes under the windows. A small garden in the back. A sign by the door that read, Cascade Hospice Retreat, Rest for the Healers. I met some of the staff, nurses from the same unit where Eleanor spent her last days. They remembered her. They told me stories I had never heard. How she made them laugh, even when she could barely breathe. How she knitted a tiny hat for one nurse's newborn. How she held another nurse's hand when her own mother was dying. They showed me a photo. Eleanor in her hospice bed, smiling, surrounded by women in scrubs, her hand reaching up to touch a face bent close to hers. I kept that photo. I visited often. I helped fix a loose board on the dock. I planted tomatoes in the garden. I sat on the porch and watched the sunset and felt something I had not felt in months. Peace. Sarah and I have dinner every other week now. She talks about her grief group, the other people who lost parents and are still learning how to carry it. She is slower now, quieter, more careful with her words. She asked me once if I would ever forgive Mark. I told her I already had. But forgiveness and trust are not the same thing. He has to earn the second one himself. She nodded. She understood Mark moved to a different city. I do not know which one. I send him a text every few months. Short, open-ended. He never replies. I leave the door open, but I do not wait by it anymore. Last week, I sat on the dock at the lake house. The sun was setting, orange and gold spread across the water. A nurse named Rose sat beside me. She had held Eleanor's hand the night she passed. Your wife loved this place, she said. She did. She talked about it all the time. Said it was where her heart lived. I looked out at the water. The last light flickered on the surface. She told me something else, Rose said. She said she was not afraid to go. She said she left her heart in good hands. I felt the tears come. Quiet, warm, not sad, I smiled. Thank you, I said. Rose patted my arm and stood up. We take care of it now. That was her wish. We take care of it for her. I stayed on the dock until the stars came out. The lake was still. The cabin windows glowed soft yellow. Eleanor's heart lived here, and it would keep living. Not in my children's hands, not in a bank account or a deed. In the hands of people who knew how to hold it gently. I walked back up to the house. The nurses were making tea in the kitchen. Someone laughed. I looked at the lake one more time, and I was at peace. The first time Sarah came to the lake house after everything happened, she parked at the bottom of the driveway and sat in her car for 10 minutes. I watched from the porch. I did not go down to meet her. She had to make that walk herself. She finally got out. She was wearing jeans and a plain sweater. No makeup. That was new. Sarah had not left the house without mascara since she was 16. She walked up the gravel path slow, like she was counting every step. Dad, she said when she reached the porch. I nodded. Sarah. I brought muffins. She held up a paper bag. They are not very good. I tried, though. I almost laughed. That was so like her. Apologizing for the muffins before I even saw them. I stepped aside and let her in. The kitchen was warm. Amanda from hospice had made coffee. Rose was at the table reading a paperback. They both said hello and went back to what they were doing. No staring. No judgment. Those women understood grace better than anyone I had ever met. Sarah sat at the table and folded her hands. I started volunteering, she said, at the hospice center. 2 mornings a week. I sat down across from her. That is good, I said. She nodded. I answer phones mostly. File paperwork. But last week I sat with a woman for 3 hours while her daughter went home to shower. She held my hand the whole time. She thought I was her granddaughter. Sarah's voice cracked. I did not correct her. I reached across the table. She took my hand. Mom would have known what to say to her, Sarah whispered. Your mom would have known what to say to everyone, I said. That was her gift. Sarah started coming every other weekend. She helped with the gardens. She painted the shed. She learned to make Rose's lemon cake recipe, and after 7 tries, she got it right. We did not talk about Mark, not at first. But one evening in September, we were sitting on the dock with our feet in the water, and she said his name like she had been holding it underwater. "Mark called me," she said. "Last week." I waited. "He is living in Seattle now. He got a job at a startup. He said Jessica's parents paid for a new apartment." She paused. "He said he does not want to talk to you." I had known that. Mark had not answered any of my calls. 3 messages over 6 months, each one shorter than the last. The last one was just me saying his name and in silence. I had not called again. "If he ever changes his mind," I said, "the door is open." "He is stubborn," Sarah said, "like you." "Your mother was the stubborn one. I was just loud." She laughed. It was small, but it was real. That night, I sat in the cabin alone. Gloria had gone home. The nurses were in the guest house. Sarah had driven back to the city. I poured a glass of water and sat at the small desk in the corner of the living room. The desk still had Eleanor's handwriting on a sticky note. It said, "Frank, pick up more yarn. Green?" I found a sheet of paper, plain white. I picked up a pen. I wrote, "Eleanor, I am at the lake. The nurses are taking care of it. Sarah's coming around. She is becoming the woman you knew she could be. Mark is lost. I am leaving the door open for him, the same way you left it open for me every time I got lost in my own head." I wrote for an hour. I told her about the garden, about Rose's laugh, about the morning I woke up and heard someone playing guitar on the dock, and I stood in the kitchen and cried because it sounded like hope. I folded the letter. I put it in an envelope and wrote her name on the front. I will have it buried with her. When my time comes, I will take it to her myself. I am not angry anymore. That surprised me. I thought the anger would stay, a permanent weight in my chest. But it faded, not because I forgave them, because I understood something Eleanor had known her whole life. Love is not a transaction. It is not a deed or a bank account or a condition. Love is the hand that holds yours when you are scared. Love is the woman who stays in the room. Jay! Love is a dock at sunset with your daughter beside you, both of you quiet, both of you healing. I put Eleanor's letter in the drawer. I walked out to the porch. The lake was black glass. The stars were coming out one by one. I think she would have liked this ending. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more. Thank you for listening.